There's a saying that a hero is only as good as his villains. And when it comes to video game characters like Sonic the Hedgehog, his rogues gallery is anything but bland. Many of his former enemies became his friends or rivals like Knuckles, Shadow, and Silver. But there's some who were just completely evil to the core. Two of the most sinister destroyers of Sonic's world, Infinite, the lethal mercenary jackal and wielder of the powerful Phantom Ruby, and Mephiles the Dark, the shape-shifting demonic half of Solaris, the sun god of Soliana. Both of these villains have so much in common and yet are so different in their own ways. Ever since Infinite's big debut in that E3 trailer last year, fans across the globe have made comparisons of him and Mephiles, going as far as to saying they're the same character. And for several months, avid Sonic fans on YouTube have debated about who would win in a fight.
Mephiles could have easily killed Infinite without even trying, and here's Infinite with his big "what a twist!" Despite,
I gotta be honest, yeah, that's compared to Infinite. Infinite can fight, and it's barely the powers he used. The dude can fight. Mephiles can't do any of that, and actually,
Well, it's time to settle this debate once and for all. I'm GamerGuide7Aces, discussing Sonic theories for 3 years. So now it's my job to analyze these two popular antagonists' strength, power, and skills, and find out who would come out on top in a battle to the death. Welcome back, my fellow theorists. You know, there's always something tantalizing about pitting two villains against each other. So it's time for the bad guys to shine on this. What the hell was that?
Okay, don't tell me you're about to make another theory without me, Gamer Guide.
Oh, hey HuskyZee, what's up? I see you've gotten the complete Sonic Theory makeover too. Sort of.
Thanks, but this time I'll be joining you on this one. I hope you already have the script with my lines.
Oh, don't worry, I got you, fam. Okay, ladies and gents, in this video we'll be discussing the pros and cons for both Mephiles and Infinite, no holds barred. And both characters will be treated impartially. So saying Infinite should lose because he never actually killed Sonic is the equivalent of saying Mephiles should lose because he got gunned down by Omega. We are looking at these characters at their maximum potential, not from some random plot point in their respective games. Alright, so let's start with the villain who came first, Mephiles. Alright, now before we dive right into this epic Sonic theory, I just wanted to say that this video is sponsored by the app Sonic Amino. Sonic Amino is like a utopia for Sonic fans. Tired of talking about Sonic on Twitter to people who are only casual fans or people who hate on your favorite Sonic games like Sonic Forces or Sonic 06? Well, now you can discuss your favorite things about the franchise to a bunch of people who love it as equally as you do. Maybe even more. Now, I'll admit, at first I was a bit cautious of joining this app due to my history and abandonment of the Sonic community, but I gotta say, the people here are very nice and friendly, as well as the leaders and moderators. You can create chat rooms, hold polls, create wiki pages of your favorite Sonic tubers like myself, make leaderboards, raffles, blogs, fan fiction, so long as it's clean like my boy Dragon Superfan here. You can pretty much do everything here without facing the scrutiny and backlash of the outside world. So, click on the link below to download and get started on Sonic Amino, the fastest growing community for Sonic. Alright, now let's get back to the theory. Mephiles the Dark is the primary antagonist of Sonic 06, where he made his first appearance. He is a demigod and one of the supernatural entities that inhabit Sonic's world. In fact, Mephiles was named after Mephistopheles, a demon featured in German folklore who has originally appeared in literature as the demon in the Faust legend. Mephiles may also be inspired by the false prophet in the Book of Revelations of the Bible, as he works in the shadows and manipulates the characters into doing things that would only further his own goals. Silver's theme song, Dreams of an Absolution, also calls him a preacher who lies, which may also be a reference to this. His name is also possibly after Mephiles, the personification of the poisonous gases emitted from the ground in swamps and volcanic vapors. In his natural state, Mephiles is a black, oily puddle surrounded in purple smoke. It is in this form which he is split from Iblis as a result of the failed experiment of the Solaris project. All of you should already know what happened afterwards. He is then sealed in the Scepter of Darkness by Shadow, who had traveled through time to 10 years before the main events of Sonic 06. When he is released, Mephiles uses Shadow's shadow to create a form that is a near exact physical duplicate of Shadow himself. The only difference is that the stripes are pale blue instead of red, and he has a pale gray muzzle, dull colored rings, and green eyes with vertically slit pupils, much like a reptile. I'm pretty sure Mephiles can adopt anyone else's shadow and take their form, but he took Shadow's because he was the one who sealed Mephiles, and it's basically poetic, taking Shadow's shadow. I see what you did there, Sonic Team. Anyway, Mephiles is a pretty unique villain amongst the long list of Sonic's rogues gallery. Unlike most of them, which are driven by a lust for power and control, Mephiles, as Shadow puts it, only seems to crave destruction. He is portrayed as a cold, ruthless villain with no sense of compassion whatsoever, and he would do anything to accomplish his goals, even if it means taking innocent lives. Mephiles happens to take great pleasure and delight in hurting others as well, making him a very sadistic and psychotic individual. For example, he made it his sole mission to cause pain to Elise throughout the entire course of the game, and even broke out into a maniacal laughter after ending Sonic's life. Mephiles also happens to be highly intelligent, as he's capable of using and manipulating people to further his evil plans. This is shown when he preyed upon Silver's frustration and desire to save the world, by deceiving him into thinking that Sonic was responsible for everything, knowing that killing him would have done the exact opposite of what Silver was trying to achieve. Even though Shadow defeated Mephiles in the past and sealed him, being a highly intellectual entity, Mephiles knew that Shadow was the only person capable of standing in his way of fulfilling his plans, which is why he tried to convince Shadow to join his nihilistic cause throughout the game. Although his attempts failed, Mephiles' manipulation tactics often work, which is why he came so close to succeeding with his plot to destroy the world. Now when it comes to strength and power, Mephiles has this in spades. Mephiles can manipulate and move through time with an ability similar to Chaos Control. Whether or not this was due to taking Shadow's form through his shadow, or it was one of his innate abilities, is debatable. However, being one half of the time god Solaris, the latter seems more plausible. In addition, he has enough control over his abilities of time manipulation to separate pursuing enemies, as evidenced by how he managed to escape Omega and Shadow after their first fight in the future. His primary offensive technique is a massive sphere of black energy that is spawned from his hands that home in on their targets. He can also use the energy spheres to move himself and others through time. Since Mephiles absorbs Shadow's shadow, he also has the ability to actually be his shadow, as seen in the first boss fight against him. He also taunts Shadow by saying, "It doesn't matter how many of them you defeat, you know." Furthermore, he can alter his physical form to sink into the ground and merge with the shadow of another, and can also manipulate shadows to create clones of himself, although they are warped and imperfect without the power of the Chaos Emeralds. He can also merge the clones together to make large shadow monsters. As seen in the Showdown with Mephiles cutscene, Mephiles can blast opponents away by firing shockwaves of energy at them. Mephiles' final attack, used before fusing with Iblis to become Solaris, was a beam of energy that he extended from his right hand to kill Sonic. Mephiles also appears to be immortal, surviving every fight he takes part in, and whenever he is beaten, he seems to just shift into his base form. Whether or not he is capable of feeling pain is unknown. Although he reacts to taking damage during his boss battles with Shadow, he merely stood and allowed himself to be shot multiple times when confronting Omega at Wave Ocean. Indeed, when defeated by Shadow a second time, he also declared himself to be immortal and invincible. And due to his endless lifespan and time travel abilities, Mephiles is able to study the world around him for as long as he needs to, which is why he's very skillful in the usage of the Chaos Emerald's reality warping capabilities. He can release unseen shockwaves from them, have them instill visions in others, blind opponents, and warp the other 6 emeralds to his location instantly, using just one. Presumably in the latter's case, he utilized the Chaos Emerald's magnetic properties to pull this off. Mephiles also has a monstrous form. is a state that Mephiles reached after empowering his darkness with the power of the Chaos Emeralds and fusing with his shadows, creating a giant body that he controls. In this state, he can fire large lasers in addition to the increment in physical capabilities. Now, as overpowered as Mephiles may seem, he still has some weaknesses. As a being of darkness, Mephiles is vulnerable to light-based attacks, such as the Chaos Spear, which renders him immobile. His shadow mending skills are also not infallible, as intense power can force him out of other people's shades. Nevertheless, Mephiles is a formidable foe that was definitely pulling the strings throughout the entirety of Sonic 06.
You must realize now that you cannot hope to stop me with your limited power.
Infinite, formerly known as the Ultimate Mercenary, is the secondary antagonist of Sonic Forces. He's a jackal and is characterized by his black fur, silver mask, and the Phantom Ruby on his chest. As an ally to Dr. Eggman, Infinite carries out much of the Doctor's schemes by defeating and capturing Sonic the Hedgehog, allowing the Doctor to actually succeed in the conquest of the planet. To fully understand Infinite's backstory, we have to refer all the way back to the Sonic Forces prequel comics, since the game cut out most of what made Infinite interesting. During the prequel comic, Rise of Infinite, a squad of thieves known as the Jackal Squad, led by what they believed to be the Ultimate Mercenary, or as fans like to call him, Zero, seized Eggman's base in the Arsenal Pyramid while the scientist was studying on the Phantom Ruby and attempts to steal his device for a hefty bounty. Eggman uses the recently discovered Phantom Ruby to summon a squadron of egg pawns to fend off the thieves. The squadron commander goes past the egg pawns and attacks Eggman, but accidentally strikes the Phantom Ruby, causing it to show an illusion of a world ravaged by war. After which, Eggman proposes a deal to the Jackal Squad leader to ally with the Eggman Empire, and thus achieve both of their objectives together. Sometime later, during the events of episode Shadow the Hedgehog invades one of Eggman's secret labs in the Mystic Jungle, and the scientist orders the Jackal Squad to exterminate him, failing in the process as the Black Hedgehog easily defeats them. After being scolded by his incompetence, the squad leader pursues Shadow and swears vengeance for his team, only for the brooding Hedgehog to lay a beat down on him and call him worthless. After this, the Jackal threw a tantrum over how weak he truly was. Bitter about his defeat by Shadow, Infinite would then fuse with the finalized Phantom Ruby prototype and attempts to become stronger, and puts on the mask to hide his scars and cast away his weakness, becoming a powerful tyrant. Reborn, Infinite becomes Eggman's right-hand man in his conquest, and among his first acts of tyranny, he effortlessly defeated E-123 Omega, who was slaughtering a lot of Eggman's robots on his way through Eggman's base. Defeating Omega with ease is a feat that not even Mephiles could accomplish. As far as personality traits are concerned, Infinite is an enigmatic, yet lethal being who is cold, stern, and extremely sadistic, as he takes great pleasure of the pain and suffering of others, and even willingly lets the Avatar flee just to be able to relish on their terrified screams. In his past, Infinite was seen to at least be able to give some degree of care to his other members from his team, the Jackal Squad, as he expressed anger over Shadow taking out his men. He also has an inferiority complex, which is perhaps his most notable character trait, as his defeat by the hands of Shadow left him bitter, to the point of fusing with the Phantom Ruby prototype and never showing his old face again. Other indications of this trait were shown when he expressed disgust at Eggman calling a retreat, viewing it as an indirect admission of weakness. Even after his defeat, Infinite tries to insist that he can fight on, even as he pulled from the battlefield. This may have developed into a mad obsession with strength. Now, before obtaining the finalized Phantom Ruby prototype, Infinite was apparently a strong fighter in his own right, his skills having earned the title of the Ultimate Mercenary. During his time as the leader of the Jackal Squad, Infinite possessed a red sword. He was a skilled swordsman after all, and this sword was apparently very sharp, being able to cut through robots with ease. However, he is nowhere near as powerful as the likes of Shadow the Hedgehog. After being fused with the Phantom Ruby, however, Infinite gained power superior to even of the Master Emeralds, which is supposedly the most powerful relic in the world. In his own words, Infinite had acquired unrivaled power and even ultimate strength through his gemstone. Infinite's newfound strength proved so great that he was able to defeat figures like Omega and even Silver the Hedgehog, and ultimately best even Sonic the Hedgehog twice, even able to single-handedly overwhelm the entire Resistance Army during Operation Big Wave. He's so powerful that not even the Miles Electric was able to give a proper reading of his capabilities. On his own, Infinite was shown to be fairly fast and agile in his movements, being capable of high-speed leaps and lunges across several pillars, although his speed was easily outclassed by Shadow's Chaos Control abilities. He's also demonstrated above average durability by taking the sound beating from Shadow and then getting back up. After Infinite's fusion with the finalized Phantom Ruby, he acquired the ability to generate, destroy, and or manipulate virtual realities. The virtual realities themselves are said to be illusions, which Infinite was able to generate by taking control of one's visual and depth perception to feed false information to the brain. The effects of these virtual realities are potent enough to be capable of causing any injury or affect the victim's physical body. Having no limitations to the illusions he could create, Infinite had, with the influence of the Phantom Ruby, unlimited abilities. Physically, he was able to make himself stronger and faster than even Sonic. He's so fast, he was able to easily dodge one of Sonic's attacks, and even when he was boosting at point-blank range, he was able to move almost immediately out of the way. Similarly, his strength became potent enough to knock away someone of Sonic's size with enough force to crack concrete upon impact. He also used his Ruby to give himself the power of flight and levitation, deadly energy beams, energy ball projection, self-replication, size enhancement, shockwave manipulation, gravity distortion, object materialization, and even teleportation. He's even able to manifest giant monsters in his likeness, trap beings in virtual realities, create a whole sun that moved according to his will, and mimic special techniques of others, such as Metal Sonic's exclusive V, Maximum Overdrive attack. In battle though, Infinite primarily uses Phantom Ruby to generate Prism Cubes that he skillfully and willingly moved around. If an opponent gets struck by these cubes, they get sent into the virtual reality where they get assailed by objects manifested by the Ruby's power. He can generate a large number of these cubes and arrange them into a variety of different shapes and forms. Infinite could also use his Ruby's power to create virtual reality projections that causes his enemies to falsely perceive the presence of another character. These projections are described by Shadow as having mass and form, but no heart or soul. So long as Infinite desired, these projections could also carry the memories, powers, and even the personalities of the originals. Accordingly, Infinite could create an unlimited number of them. He could also alter them to make them stronger than the originals, such as making Metal Sonic Replica bigger and granting him the ability to use electrified versions of his energy cubes, as well as materialize objects to use as a shield. Using the Ruby's power, Infinite was also capable of limited spatial manipulation, allowing him to create null spaces, which are seemingly inescapable voids in space and time where absolutely nothing exists. When opening portals into null spaces, Infinite could reinforce such portals to expand and suck everything nearby into them. While Infinite solutions are formidable, they can be neutralized by someone who has the Phantom Ruby prototype as well. Likewise, his Phantom Ruby solutions only work if the target is within the Ruby's field of effect. Also, his Phantom Ruby requires a tremendous amount of energy to function. Should its energy supply be cut off, the Phantom Ruby prototype would be rendered useless. Another weakness of Infinite is his extreme sense of confidence and constant need to satisfy his sadism. When Infinite destroyed the Avatar squad, he willingly let them run away unharmed as he enjoyed the sounds of their screams. Later, when he had Sonic at his mercy for a second time, rather than finishing him off there and there, he just left, seeing Sonic as something he not need to bother himself with. Both these actions proved to be Infinite's downfall when Sonic and the Avatar later ended up beating him together. Infinite had several opportunities to kill Sonic, but with a sadistic adversary as powerful as he is, it's easy to get bored of that, when you can mentally break down your enemies little by little.
I will teach you fear, then pain, and then, well, at least the fear and pain will end.
Alright, the destroyer combatants are set.
Let's end this debate once and for all.
It's time for a death battle! I mean, Sonic battle!
Well, well, what do we have here? A hellish clone of Shadow. I already know your tricks, so it won't work this time. I have been reborn!
Well, sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not Shadow, and you're not reborn. You're just a weak mortal hiding behind that precious gem. Let me guess, it's the source of your power?
I am not weak. I wield the power of the Phantom Ruby. It's going to send you back to hell.
Is that so? Well, it's a pity, Infinite. Truly a shame that you wish to go against me.
Impossible! We escaped my virtual reality without the use of the Phantom Ruby prototype.
A brilliant display of power, I must say. But while you've honed them to an incredible degree, you remain nothing more but a mortal being.
How did you...
Foolish jackal. I have the power to travel through time. No amount of illusions can deceive me. Not even the Phantom Ruby.
Wow, now that was one hell of a battle. Both characters were extremely powerful too, so before any of you Infinite fanboys and fangirls start raging, please hear us out on this one.
What do you mean us, dude? I thought Infinite was gonna win too. He created the sun and threw it at the Resistance. That's OP.
Okay, first of all, that sun was just an illusion, conjured up by the Phantom Ruby. And second, Mephiles is on a completely different level. He only has two known weaknesses. Light-based attacks and his shadow mending skills are flawed, but those weaknesses are completely irrelevant when going up against Infinite, because the Phantom Ruby possesses no light-based attacks, and Mephiles didn't need to copy Infinite's shadow to beat him.
But Mephiles wouldn't stand a chance against Infinite's sun attack.
Anyway, looking at Infinite's weaknesses, they can easily be exploited by a Phantom Ruby prototype, or by destroying a backup energy supply. Also, Sonic and the Avatar were able to defeat Infinite without having to use any prototype of the Phantom Ruby.
But Infinite threw a freaking sun!
That, with all due respect, that was sure an amazing feat by Infinite, but again, that would have zero effect on Mephiles. He was born from the flames of Solaris, the flames of disaster. Fire means nothing to him. For all we know, he might even be able to merge with the sun and become even more powerful. The bottom line is, Infinite's attacks are all illusion based, which won't affect Mephiles in the slightest. He's super intelligent, so the moment he realizes he's in a virtual reality, he'll simply go back to the past and kill you before you even send him there. Or he can jump to the future. He can travel through time at will without the use of any Chaos Emeralds. And yes, it's true that the Chaos Emeralds are weaker than the Phantom Ruby, which renders them useless. But Mephiles doesn't need the Emeralds to fight. In Sonic 06, he only ever used the Chaos Emeralds to create multiple copies of himself, merge with Iblis, or create a distraction, like what he did when he killed Sonic. The only way Infinite could stand a chance at beating Mephiles would be to find a way to lock him in a null space virtual reality and crush him right then and there. But eventually, Mephiles would revive himself and go back to the past just as easily. There really is no way Infinite can win this fight against a hyper-dimensional being.
Okay, I see what you mean. Looks like Mephiles is extremely overpowered, and since Infinite has no time traveling abilities, I guess that gives him a serious handicap against Mephiles.
Definitely. And it's even worse when he became Solaris. It took the super forms of Shadow, Sonic, and Silver to defeat him from 3 different timelines, the past, present, and future, since he existed in all of them at once. And even after that, Sonic and Elise still had to go back to the past and blow out Solaris' flame to make sure that Mephiles would never come back again. And some people even believe that Mephiles still isn't completely dead yet. Ian Flynn, who was the head writer for the Sonic Archie comics, has expressed the opinion that Sega intended for the Time Eater in Sonic Generations to be a sort of reborn Mephiles, some portion of him surviving the defeat of Solaris and the paradox that prevented his existence. However, no Sega statement is known to have been issued in response.
Wow, that'd be insane. Hey, I remember us mentioning that in our time loop paradox theory, about Mephiles and the Time Eater.
Yep. While Infinite is powerful, a skilled warrior, and had a lot of potential as a character, he just wasn't enough to defeat an invincible and immortal demon god. The winner is Mephiles. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the Sonic Theory. It took me several months to painstakingly put everything together here, so I hope you all enjoyed it. I've always wanted to do a Sonic Theory death battle, and I'm glad I finally pulled it off. I'd like to give shoutouts to Jiggly King for that awesome animation fight, to HuskyZee for helping me out with this one, and to Bobby and Megapie for voicing Mephiles and Infinite. And since this marks the end of Season 3 of the show, I want you guys to give me some ideas on what topics I should tackle in the future when I start on Season 4 of Sonic Theory. You can comment ideas down below, so long as you don't spam them, or you can message me on YouTube. But once again, we thank you all for watching, and take care.